I'm the sort of person who's very content with what they have, and I've been lucky to have what I wanted in life.
Welcome to Island Influencers, where we share stories of successful business owners, experienced professionals, entrepreneurs and community leaders based or with influence in the Isle of Man. This podcast is brought to you by Thornton Chartered Financial Planners, because great financial planning has the power to change your life. Now here's your host, Chartered Financial Planner Sharon Sutton.
Welcome to this week's episode of Island Influencers, where my guest is Sarah Corlett, owner of Sarah Corlett Town Planning Consultancy Limited. And after recently retiring from Isle of Man government as a principal planner, Sarah has established her own town planning consultancy practice. And having been involved in literally thousands of development proposals, big and small, during her time as a planning officer with the Isle of Man government, Sarah fully understands how a potential development can affect the quality of those around it. Sarah offers town planning advice on all aspects of planning on the island, and she believes in providing honest professional advice, always. The other thing you need to know about Sarah is she's currently the chair of Isle of Man Sport, which is the organisation funded by government, providing financial support and other support to sportsmen and women and juniors from grassroots to elite level sport. So here's this week's conversation with Sarah Corlett in episode 57 of Island Influencers. So welcome to this week's guest in Island Influencers. That's Sarah Corlett. Sarah, thanks so much for joining us at St John's Mill on the ground floor because it's too hot upstairs.
Thank you, you're very welcome.
So it's great to see you. Our paths have crossed a few times over the years. So why don't you tell our listeners all about you and what you're up to?
Okay, I've just had a series of major changes, and I'm going through a series of major changes in my life. I'm the sort of person who's very content with what they have, and I've been lucky to have what I wanted in life. So I've never striven to be particularly excellent at anything. I've never been particularly ambitious, but I've always found myself in a position with enough of everything and with the things that I need and want. Or maybe I've just accepted that the things that I have are the things that I want. But after nearly 31 years of working in government, I've only ever had one job. Found the job I liked, stuck with it.
Fantastic.
Which is very lucky. As a planner, I started off as a planning assistant and worked my way up to sort of halfway up the hierarchy. Didn't want to go any further. Working in town planning, which is fantastic, sort of influencing the things that surround you, which is a real privilege. Really loved it. I've decided that it was maybe time to do something else, and I thought long and hard about what could I do. I thought it was about time that somebody else kind of came and had the chances that I'd had. Maybe the government organisation that I worked in needed a bit of new blood, that they didn't want someone who'd been there for 31 years and didn't have any new ideas. And I was always very worried about being the person in the corner, because I'd worked with these people before, who basically was just very disparaging about anybody having an idea, saying, "Well, we've done that. No, we tried that. Didn't work. No, don't do that. Don't do that." and I've worked with very few people like that, and I didn't want to become that person. And I found myself thinking of things, thinking, no, I'm becoming that person. It's time for me to go. So I thought about what could I do? Could I go and get a job somewhere? Could I work for people? Could I do something else? And then I thought, actually, no, I really love doing what I do. Could I maybe do it in a different way? So I thought I'll have a go. I'll talk to people about maybe setting up my own planning consultancy so I can give people the advice that I was giving them before, but in a private capacity. Got a lot of feedback from architects and people saying, yes, this would be brilliant. It would be really helpful. Yes, can you do it? So I did the government's micro business grant scheme course, which was absolutely amazing, really brilliant in terms of giving me information that I didn't know I needed, and enough to know that I needed to know more, but the resources to know where to find them. So I've started my own business, cut a long story short. I'm 2.5 weeks in, and it's brilliant.
Fantastic. Well, let's do the long story then, shall we?
Okay.
Let's go back in time and so where did you grow up? What's your background?
Well, I think that the being comfortable and content with what I have probably came from when I was born. Because when I was born to people who weren't my parents, who brought me up, because I was adopted when I was very young, like months old, right. I think. And I guess you don't really query where you come from, because it doesn't become an issue until, I don't know, year 8 or 9 or something, and then you start to wonder why you don't look like your sister, and she doesn't look like you, and you don't look like your parents, and then I remember my sister said to me that she started asking questions.
Is she older or younger?
She's 4.5 years older than me.
Right, okay.
And we're completely different. We're not biologically related, but she's fantastic, and we get on so well, and we're really close family, which is great.
Yeah.
And she said that she I don't know when this actually sort of figured to her, but she said that because we're several years apart, but we've got friends who've got the same relationship, so they've got sisters who are the same age as me and her. And she said when she remembers that when her friends were going to see their baby brother, sister, that they went to the hospital, but she remembers going to the airport to find me, and it never occurred to her as being strange because she didn't really think about it. And then she started asking, and then my parents sort of said, yes, you were adopted. And my sister and I both took that very differently. I sort of thought, well, that's quite interesting, isn't it? And I remember my mum said to me, I said, what does it mean? What does it mean if I was adopted?
You're so young. How many?
I was 7, I think. My sister was 11, so it sort of meant a bit more to her.
Yeah.
So my mum, I said, what does it mean? And she said, well, basically, we chose you. And I remember she said to me, we chose you out of all the babies. And I thought she must have gone along to like a shop, and there would be like little cots of babies. And she sort of said we'd have that. That's not how it works. I don't think so. And I thought, well, that's ace, isn't it? Because I'm happy. I've got friends. I've got a nice mum and dad. I've got a nice sister. And so fate's kind of intervened and brought me to a nice place. So that's great. Yeah. And I think that was kind of what enabled me to carry on in life, thinking, well, whatever I've got is fine, and you know, what will be will be, lucky sort of thing. Oh, absolutely, yeah, very much so.
Oh, that's lovely.
That's lovely. It is lovely.
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
So what happened then? So you carried on at school here?
Yeah. I went to Oncombe Primary School, and then Balcomine, Park Road, St Ninians, and then I loved school all the way through it. I went to university. What
did you enjoy about school?
I loved everything. I loved learning. I loved the people that I came into contact with. I liked the structure. I like the whole, because I'm a little bit like that. I like the classes. I'm going to learn this, so I'm going to think about that, and then I've got a break, and then I've got this, and there was wonderful opportunities to do loads of stuff. You know, gymnastics, badminton, tennis. You could try things. Doesn't matter if you weren't very good, because probably somebody'd be worse than you. Brilliant. Loved it. Loved the whole thing about school.
Is that where your love of sport came from?
Yeah, I think so. I started playing badminton when I was 10. My friend's dad played, and he said, do you want to come and play badminton? My friend said, do you want to play badminton? I was like, I don't even know what that is. So we went up to Ballymona, actually, because they had a court in
Ballymona long since flat.
Gosh, yeah. So we went up there every sort of week and played, and I thought, I quite like this, and I could hit it, it's all right. So then I carried on playing, stopped when I went to university, came back, and I only gave up a couple of years ago, actually. So yeah.
You've given up?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see any marching band or any fireworks.
There was probably rounds of applause from some places, but no. I've got too much going on with all the other things, and we're also moving house, which is another thing to pile on the things that are happening.
Yes. So you left school with a love of sport, and you went to Edinburgh.
I went to Edinburgh. I went to Heriot Watt University, which is in Edinburgh, which, looking back, was probably not the best choice.
Right.
It was the best choice for that career.
It's an excellent university.
It is, and it's probably the best university for town planning. But it was very far away, and not that I came back very often, but it was quite expensive, and it took a long time in those days, because I couldn't have afforded to fly, even if I wanted to, because I don't think there was any flights. But I had to get on. I got on the train at 8 o'clock in the morning from Edinburgh. Then I'd get to Lancaster, have to get the bus to the boat over, so I wouldn't get in home till sort of 6 o'clock. And the people there were really nice, but they weren't me. I remember going the first time I went into a pub in Edinburgh, and I thought, I don't know anybody. This isn't right, because you go in those days when you went into a pub or down Strand Street, you'd know everybody, and people's faces didn't look familiar. They didn't look like people I would know, and the people in my class were very nice, but they were all kind of public school types, and they were lovely, but they weren't kind of me. But it was fine, and I stayed there, and I had a year out in Glasgow, which was fab, and then I came back. And I had grand ideas. I went to America on the Ella Ollison scholarship.
That's amazing. What an amazing achievement.
Something that just kind of fell into my lap, really.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm sure it didn't.
It's well, I guess I had to interview and stuff. But
I guess so. Yeah.
But that was great, because I did, when I was there, I learned loads of things. Like I enrolled on archery courses, and interpersonal communication. That was quite an enlightening thing for American things. But I did, when I was there, I sold tickets for the local basketball game, and I worked in a food co-op, which was great. So you didn't get paid, you just get however many hours you did, you got that percentage off your groceries, and they were all wonderful, like homegrown things. And so that was really good. And when I was there, my then boyfriend came over and joined me, and we had great ideas about staying in America, and we were going to do all sorts of wonderful things. And then my mum had a stroke, a massive stroke, so I had to come home. She was all right. She lost her memory, but she was perfectly happy after that, and she lived for another 20 years. So she sort of survived. But as soon as I got back, I knew I didn't want to go anywhere else. Really? And my poor boyfriend was like, "Oh, we're going to do this, and we're going to go to America." And I'm like, I don't think I want to go there now. And he went, "Well, you said you did." And I said, "I know, but I changed my mind, and I kind of want to stay here, and this is where I belong." And we ended up splitting up, and he went back to America, and he is still in America, and we still speak, and it's fine, and he made the right decision, as did I. So everything worked out. Again, everything worked out just fine, really.
What did you take anything from America? Do you think that sort of attitude, can-do ability?
Probably not. I'm not that sort of person, to be honest. But I probably learned not to be ignorant of things, because a lot of American people, and a lot of the American people I met, because I was in Idaho, which is a particular type of person. A lot of them hadn't actually ever been outside Idaho,
right?
So which is fine. Yeah. But they didn't appreciate that there was a world outside there. I remember speaking to one chap, and it was in the food co-op, and I sort of said, so whereabouts are you from? And he said, I'm Scottish. I said,
right.
I said, really? I said, you don't sound as if you're Scottish. He said, I'm from Scotland. And I said, well, you I don't think you are you? And it turned out that his great-great-grandparents had been from... I said, have you ever been? Oh, no. I said, well, do you want to go? No, not really. And I thought, how very bizarre that there's that life out there, but you're happy with that little bit of knowledge of it and don't want any more, really. Maybe what not to be rather than what to be, I took away.
So after all that, came back then from Idaho, after all that education, you decided to apply for jobs here, presumably, and that came up, did it?
Well, yes, I decided to apply for job. I'm quite... I have a very simplistic view of life, that if I want something, I expect it to happen, and I often get very confused and frustrated when things don't happen. The world isn't all about me. I've kind of come to that conclusion quite late in life. So I sort of rocked up to the planning office and said, well, here I am then. I've got a degree, and can I have a job, please? and the Barry Vannon, who was the deputy chief planning officer at the time, and he was like, oh, he was great, and he sort of said that would be wonderful. And I sort of, I've got a degree, and he said, well, we haven't actually got a position, but we can probably give you some sort of contract. So I said, aye, that's fine. That's fine. I want to come in and I want to do planning. So I sort of, started, and they gave me a 9-month contract, and then they gave me a 10-month contract, then they gave me another 10-month contract, then they gave me a 6-month contract, and then somebody left. So I was able to apply, and I sort of got the job. Yeah. So,
Great. And then 31 years later.
It's still there. Well, it was. Until 2.5 weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
Find something I like it, stick with it. That's my motto.
Well, it seems to have worked out. And I know that from sport particularly, you've always put your hat into the ring, haven't you? To help others.
Go.
You have, haven't you?
Yeah.
So I take it when you came back, you carried on with your badminton career.
Yeah, I picked that back up again and I've moved around clubs a bit, but carried on doing that. Then I started getting into the kind of admin of it. So I was secretary of the club, and then I sort of helped with the association as well, and eventually became the chairman, actually, first female chairman of Adin Badminton Association, which was quite exciting. Yeah. And then I got involved with Adin Sport, which is where I met you. Yeah. And I'm now I have the pleasure of being the chairman of that. First female chairman of that too.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. I mean, Isle of Man sport. It's such an unsung hero of the sporting world, because you have that job to. Why don't you say what you do? Because I know what you do.
Well,
you tell our listeners.
There's a mandate from government for Isle of Man Sport to sort of promote sport and be the independent advisor to government on all matters sporting. But they do so much more than that. And it's intertwined with the government's strategy for sport, which is not just competitive sport, but just participation as well. And it helps the sports, it helps the sporting athletes. It gives financial, it gives support in other ways, like psychological, administrative, organisational, diet things, anything that is involved in sport, Adin Sport will probably be able to help and does. But I remember when I started, I was asked to kind of apply, because I don't think in those days very many people kind of applied really. So I sort of applied.
Yeah, it was called the Sports Council back then?
It was.
Yeah.
I think it was still the Sports Council then. Or it had just changed, I think. But I remember thinking, the first year at least, thinking, just feeling totally in awe of the people on the committee, including yourself. Just thinking, how do these people know all this stuff?
Oh, you have to learn fast, don't you?
Yeah. And I think it was one of those things that it was probably 5-6 years before I thought, actually, I think I'm now getting the hang of this. And the memories of people, people. So I remember such and such person. I have no idea who they are. Oh, they did this and they did that, and he went. Ooh, crikey! So you have to have a lot of enthusiasm, but a lot of very good memory as well, and an openness. And I think Adin Sport has developed so much over the past 10 years, because the world is changing and it's changed with it, which is brilliant. And there's lots of new people involved with new processes and new ways of thinking, and it's always been very open to things rather than this is how we do things and this is how we're going to carry on. But no, it's a real privilege to be part of it all, really. And I'm the chairman, but I probably do less than everybody else, to be honest, and just take all the credit.
I doubt that. Well, you certainly put your time in over the years, I have to say. I enjoyed it immensely from the time I was there, as I remember that openness and that complete respect for everybody else's point of view, and agree to disagree. Come to it was a really, for me, it was a way of getting some really amazing board experience. Whilst supporting sport through volunteering, because it's all voluntary, isn't it?
It most of the vast
How many years have you done it now? 13 years.
13, yeah. And it's difficult to know when to stop, because it's really important to get continuity, and it's really important to have that knowledge. And as I said, I don't think you get it in the first 4 years, because you're on a 4-year time frame type thing. But you don't want to be on so long that you become, as I said before, the person in the corner saying, "No, don't do that. We've done that. No, I've done that." So it's a bit of a balance. And I think between 12 and 16 years is probably about right. If you got
it's probably the average tenure actually. But there's regular rotation. How many members are on it?
I think there's 8 all, so there's 4 on one committee, 3 on the other, and me.
Yeah, okay. And then you have all the people coming in helping you, all the experts.
Yeah, sponsors and professionals as well.
Yeah.
And it's a really good combination of things, really. Yeah, but I read something, and I can't remember whether it was something about being human or something about being happy, or possibly both. But there's like a list of things that if you can do these things, it helps make you happy. And one of the things is doing things for other people. And one of the other things is being part of something. Yeah. And you can kind of kill 2 birds with one stone doing something like Adin Sport or any other sort of committee or organisation or whatever. And it helps you be a better person, I think.
Well, on behalf of listeners and people of the Isle of Man, I just want to say thanks really for the job welcome. That you do, because it is unsung. So moving on to today and launching your new business, it's very, very exciting.
Yeah.
So what made you think about setting it up?
Well, I thought about it was purely selfish to start off with, because I thought, what can I do where I can earn a bit of money, but I can actually do, because I thought I'll go and work in Marks and Spencer's. That'd be wonderful, and I'll get discount off my shopping, and I'll have a great time, and I won't need to worry about things because it'll be quite easy. And then I thought, a lot of people said, "Oh no, it wouldn't be sort of pushing you enough." And I was, I'm not sure I want to be pushed. I've been pushed for 31 years, and I'd like an easy life, sort of thing. But then I thought, well, what happens if I don't get TT week off? What happens if I don't want to go in?
And that's important. Why?
Because I'm marshal for the TT.
Okay. Just something else you do in your spare time.
Well, I've got a few minutes. Yeah, I love doing that. 23 years, I think I've done that. So I've done that quite a long time. As I said, find something I like and stick with it. So, and then I thought, well, what happens if I don't really feel like going into work? And I thought, I'm 55 now. I need to have a bit more flexibility. And I thought, well, what could I do where I could kind of be my own boss, but I could still do the things I want to do, and ideally keep in touch with the same people I'd kept in touch with when I was doing work for government.
And you quite like planning.
I quite like planning. And then I thought, well, I could be a planning consultant. That's what I could do. And then I met someone who's a planning consultant in England. He comes over here and he said, "Have you retired yet?" And I said, I'm on the brink of retiring. This was about a year ago. And he said, "You should be a planning consultant." And I went, I was thinking about that.
Isn't that nice?
And I thought, well, I wonder what other people would think. So then I started asking some of the architects that I sort of, whose opinions I trusted. And I said, what would you think about if I did this? And almost all of them said, said, it would be really useful to us if we had an independent person who knew about the planning system, but who was there to sort of give us advice. So I talked to all them, and then I went on the business scheme thing, and I thought, no, this is all the signs are pointing to this being the right thing to do, which it seems to be, which is good. Yeah. Dead exciting. And I was going to say a little bit nerve-wracking. It actually hasn't been. Because if it doesn't work, I stop, don't I? And then I'll go and work in Marks and Spencer's. It's not the end of the world, or if I don't like it or whatever. But so far, it's brilliant. It's very liberating. It's really lovely to be able to tell people. The government is great, and it offers loads of advice that a lot of people probably aren't aware of, that they can get access to. But there's only so much that that the officers can take. They can't say, yes, this is probably going to be fine. They can't say this is probably going to be refused. But I can probably do that, because I don't want to waste people's time or money. I can't take a position that I don't believe in. So I couldn't say, if you said to me, I want to do this, and I thought, there's no way on earth that's going to get approved, I couldn't say, yes, that's fine, I'll do all the work for you, and then you get a refusal, and it's a lose-lose, really.
No, that would question your integrity, and no one would do that.
No, absolutely. And so I could say, no, I think you're wasting your time. Whereas I don't think I could have said that when I was in government. You know, you could kind of hint, but you can't really be that dexterous. And hopefully, as well, that if I can help people put together better schemes and not waste their time and money, but if they do want to do something that's a bit of it's a goer, if I can help them put together an application which has got a lot of the things they might not have thought needed to be put in, that then makes a better application, which makes the department's job easier. It makes the applicants' aspirations may be achievable, and it's win-win, really. Great. Fingers crossed, that's what I'm hoping to do.
All right. Well, we'll obviously put the links for this into our podcast, and good luck. I mean, it sounds amazing. Well, look, if you don't mind me asking, I primarily ask this in my day job, which is financial planner, not town planner. But, what's your earliest memory of money?
I remember when I was probably, and how old have I been? 6, 7, 8. I got pocket money. And I love pocket money, again, because it was regular and I knew what I was getting. And I used to save. My sister and I are completely different in many respects. She always used to spend her money. I used to save mine. And there was a little shop. I used to live in Auburn Road, and there was a little, there still is actually, a little line of shops behind us. And one of them sold all sorts of things, but it sold, there was 2 things that I really had my eye on. One was a little bunny, a little, not a real one, a little toy bunny. Susie Bunny she became. And I saved up for her. And I bought her, and I came home, I was like, I've just bought this. This is amazing. And then I saved up some more and bought a little clock, a little tiny grandfather clock thing that you wound up, and it ticked, and it was red, and it had all little Swiss flowers and things on. So I remember thinking, this is a
cuckoo clock,
kind of, but with no cuckoo.
Okay.
It was only literally about 6 inches tall, and I bought that as well. And I used to like Christmas, because I used to make little plans of who I needed to buy. I still do, actually. Who I needed to buy presents for, how much money I had, how much did it all cost.
Bit of a theme here.
I'm not liking what I'm hearing, actually. It's terrible. Money as in something that could do things for me, I think, if I was careful about it. And I probably still have that attitude towards it now.
Well, clearly.
I probably worry about money more than anything. And my partner and I are completely different. He thinks that everything will be fine. I generally think everything's going to be terrible. Usually it's somewhere in the middle. He doesn't worry about money. I worry about money. We're usually all right. We're never going to be rolling in it. But we'll have enough.
Yeah, you will. And anything I can do to help, obviously, that's what I do. So all the things you've done throughout your life so far, go on, what's the thing you're most proud of?
Probably the easiest thing to say is I did the parish walk, which was sheer bloody mindedness, really. It certainly wasn't fitness or preparation. I did 5 long walks and decided that would be fine.
Okay. How were your feet?
My feet were fine. My knees were terrible, absolutely terrible. And my boyfriend was the worst backup in the world.
What, Dave?
Yes, and he then became the best backup, because he and I both supported Jock Waddington,
right?
On all of his 4 wins, consecutive wins, which is a fantastic achievement. But at the time that Dave was doing it for me, he first appeared at Russian. To take one of the people I was walking with home, because he'd had enough. I then the next time I saw him was then.
But Dave or the other competitor?
The other competitor. He'd had enough, so he was going home. And then the next time I saw him was Devil's Elbow.
Oh.
Yeah, where he appeared with the food, because I didn't know what to bring, and I'd basically set off with a water bottle and a bag of Skittles. And in those days, it was 2002, I think, nobody had water stations and feeding stations and stuff, so I basically had the Skittles and the water to Devil's Elbow. So and what the other thing I'd brought was a box of pasta. So I thought, I like pasta, that would be great. And I didn't have anything else. I literally had a Tupperware box of pasta. I think it was a bit of butter and salt. No fork, of course. I didn't bring a fork. So Dave said, "Oh, sorry, I've been busy. Have you really? Okay." So he sort of gave me the pasta. So I sort of ate it with my fingers, and it was fairly horrible by that stage. So then he went off, and I said, "I'm fine for now." And then I think Derby was the next time I saw him, because he'd been off to have tea with somebody.
Nice.
And then I remember walking towards the Len Bridge, and somebody stopped and asked for planning advice. I said, I don't think now's the time, to be honest, really. But I'll maybe ring her on Monday if I'm fitting well. But yeah. So then I think he caught up with me somewhere towards Bride, and then it all went wrong. It was just all horrible. And I think I'd actually done bits of the walk up to that point, and then everything else was unfamiliar.
Yeah, it's quite a challenge from there on, isn't it?
Well, it was dark,
not just endurance. But
it was dark and
uphill through
I was sore and I couldn't see anything. Couldn't see the sea, which didn't really help. Didn't really know where I was going. Pavements were terrible. And then I started getting a bit delirious and thought I was further on than I was. And then coming out of Lizette, I remember going into, and then I started getting really, really angry, as you do. And then and why on earth am I doing this, wandering around Andreas in the middle of the night? Stupid woman. What did I think about this? But I remember coming out of Lizette Church, and I thought, you know what, I've had enough. My knees are so sore. And Dave was at the bottom, and I said, Dave, I've had enough. I said, I want to go home. And I think I probably started crying. And he said, and I quote, "If you think I've come all this way to let you get in the car, you've got another thing coming." He threw the box of remaining pasta at me and said, "I'll see you in Ramsey," and drove off and left me, which was actually probably a really good thing to do. So I was then fuming and stormed past him when I said, "I'm not even speaking to you, I'm not speaking to you." So I don't think I spoke to him until Laxey, actually. And at one point, I did walk past him at the Glenmona when he was asleep in the car. Yeah, I was fused. But then he did accompany me from Laxey to the finish. But I remember going down Royal Avenue thinking, I think I've actually done this. Oh, I'm so proud of myself. I've actually done this. And then going along the prom and then stopping and then yeah. So I think that's probably the most. Yeah, I'd never do it again. It was the stupidest thing I ever did, but I think I'm quite proud of myself. I did finish. Yeah.
I'm proud of the fact that you didn't finish with Dave on the spot. I mean,
If I'd had the energy, I probably would have punched him, but I didn't, so I didn't.
Yes, note to anybody else giving support in Parish Walk competitors, that's how not to do it.
No.
Okay, so I know you're brand new into it. For any aspiring or existing business owners, knowing what you know now, what's your number one tip?
I would strongly recommend the Department for Enterprises Micro Business Grant Scheme to anyone who's thinking about, or even people who are doing it. Yeah. Because there's 2 half days and a full day of kind of classroom based stuff, but you get people with experience of marketing, the whole accountancy bit, the legal setup of your businesses if you want to do that sort of thing. You also get to talk to other people and get, where other people are. Some people are starting off, some people have already established, some people do things differently. Yeah. And I came away thinking, I came away realising there was a lot more that I didn't know, but confident that I had the resources to try and find those things.
Oh, that's great. So you had this idea. Did anybody talk about it being profitable or?
Yeah. They first start off about why are you doing it? Why are you starting your business? And a lot of people are, I want to make money. A lot of people are, I want to help people. And actually the truth is somewhere in between, because you need to make the money, but you need to be able to do something that is successful, whatever that might be, sort of thing. For me, I think the whole budgeting money thing was quite enlightening, because I very naively thought, well, I'll do something, I'll get paid, and that'll be really simple. And then I thought, well, actually, some things might take quite a long time to do. Yeah. And then when I invoice people, they probably won't pay me on some people might pay straight away, but then you have to give people terms, and then it might be a couple of weeks. So I had my spreadsheet, and I was thinking, well, I'm going to do, oh crikey, I'm going to do that. Might not actually get paid for like 6 months, 6 weeks, 2 months, 7 months, whatever. So how does that all work out? And then they teach you how to do the whole, the cash flow thing, and you work out your incomings, your outgoings, when you're getting paid, and how much you need to earn, which was quite daunting to start off with. But when I started, I got some work straight away, so I was able to get money in, and it's all going quite well.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So it's exciting. But the first time that you invoice somebody and you say, this is what I've done for you, this is what I think this is worth, and they come back and say, thank you, there's your money, is just fabulous, because it's I think I'm worth that. Somebody else does as well, you know, which is fabulous, really.
Yeah.
And it's very different from working for somebody where you get a salary every month, regardless of how much and how well you do something.
Yeah.
You know, and you get the same salary as somebody else who's doing a similar job, but they might be doing it quite differently.
Yeah.
So actually having a demonstration of your worth to somebody else is fab.
Thank you for sharing that. So what do you do now to relax and keep in balance?
Well, we're building a house, so not much really. Well, I would say we're building a house. Dave's doing most of it, so that's exciting.
That's
as well.
payback from the parish walk.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll mention that next time I speak to him, when he says you're not up there doing something. Yeah, you weren't there for me either. When I was one. Anyway, that's
not that you're holding a grudge or anything.
No, I haven't moved on at all. For 2002, so we've got a lot of things to do to our house before we move out, and things to move to that. So, but that's all very exciting, and it's nice weather, and we've got wonderful tradesmen working for us. Yeah. So it's all gone very well.
Fantastic. So ultimately, when that's built, what do you think you'll do? What's life? Because we all still get the same amount to spend, don't we? Every week, 168 hours, and I take it you're not going to want to do consultancy all that time. Although,
no,
strange how things.
To be honest, I probably would be quite happy working every day, but I know that work-life balance needs to be established. So I think we're moving somewhere very rural. So I'd like to think that I'd work maybe 3 days a week, and I'd certainly have 3 days when we can go walking, or Dave wants to plant things, so I can help him in the production of enormous vegetables, apparently, with taste, apparently.
Oh, good luck with that.
Yeah.
So what do you think are the best things about living in the Isle of Man then?
The Isle of Man's changed, and some of the things that used to be really good, like the intimacy, and people knew you, and that used to be a really good thing, and sometimes now it's maybe not so good, because accessing people, and if people aren't minded to think positively of you, maybe isn't so good. But it's still a beautiful, wonderful place where lots of things are very accessible. And I know, just from a sort of a working point of view, that if planning in the UK is much less accessible, you can't actually speak to a planner. You have to make an appointment. If you are allowed to do that, you probably have to pay to do it. Whereas all the communication I've had with government, whether it's income tax, whether it's something that's nothing to do with my job, it has always been really helpful. People, really accessible. People usually get back to you. So I think that's really good. It's a beautiful place. And thanks to planning, it's mostly it's a lovely place. You know, we've got access to fantastic facilities, whether that be sporting facilities or just the countryside or wonderful views. You know, how many people can walk down their main financial street and see fields of sheep at the end of it? People can't do that, can they? But if you walk down Athol Street, that's what you can see. And then if the other side, you can see the sea, which is fabulous. So it's a wonderful place, as long as you don't want some of the things we haven't got, like, you know, sort of, I don't know, concerts and holidays and things. But if you don't need that sort of thing, the Isle of Man's a wonderful place, and it's still relatively safe and good to bring, you know, children up. And so I wouldn't really live anywhere else. I had the opportunity and didn't, and I don't want to now either.
Yeah, well, glad for the Isle of Man's sake that you didn't.
Thank you.
So maybe we could explore a bit more about the main challenges the Isle of Man faces from a planning point of view. What would those be? Would you say people being unrealistic about what is and isn't achievable? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always, planning is always about balance. It's always about balancing what somebody wants to do with what the impact might be, and sometimes the impact is too negative and too great to justify the benefits from whatever somebody wants to do, and sometimes it's the other way around.
Has it changed, do you think, with climate? You know, because, for example, if we look around where we are now in St John's Mill, this place was repurposed back in 2000. At the time, they said you had to put wooden single glazed windows in, and of course, it's a stone building, so there's probably aesthetic qualities there, but also, knowing from being in the top office, it's as cold as hell in the winter, and it costs a fortune to heat in oil, and it's not big enough to be able to have renewables installed on the roof that would be sustainable, like you know, somewhere like the Mountain View Innovation Centre. So, just wondering, does planning move on now to consider things like climate more, do you think?
It does, and it has to, because the building regs, never mind the planning, is moving on. So that's requiring higher and higher standards of all sorts of things for, energy efficiency and everything else. I think in terms of buildings, there's like a hierarchy, and there's most of the most of the buildings on the island are nice, good, nondescript, they're replaceable. You then get conservation areas where the area is important and the buildings in it contribute to that, and many of the buildings are very important, very historic, architectural. But I mean, it's quite interesting you talk about that, because again, that's a balance between, is the historic interest of that particular building so important that it justifies over reasonable expenditure to try and keep it going in a building that might not be sized or shaped in a way that can make it easily usable. And then you talk about the renewables, the heating, the energy efficiency, and all those things, which in all buildings you can't do. So that again is a balance, and that's a balance that the department takes when it registers things. Of course, Tynwald Mill is registered, so the registered buildings are at the top of the tree, and they require the utmost protection to keep them as they are, and to reflect why they were registered. And interestingly, for Tynwald Mill, I think the innards of it, the workings, the mill workings are registered as well as the outside of the building.
I'm sure they are, yeah.
So that's the most important thing. And I think technology is moving on as well. That there's lots of ways. We're not the only people in the world having historic buildings. People are doing things all the time. The registration system is different over here. It's listing in the UK, and they have different grades, whereas we just have registered or not. The registered building section of the department have got a lot of knowledge and experience on different ways of doing things. So anybody who's got a building, go and talk to them.
No, sounds compelling.
And again, it's a balance that if it's not possible to do something like the windows, if the windows are timber and need to be timber, then maybe you can have secondary glazing. Maybe you can have something different that would achieve what you want to achieve, but not actually changing the aesthetics of the building.
No,
really.
Indeed. Oh, thank you for that. It was a free consultation there.
No problem.
Yeah,
I'll bill you later.
Yeah. I know you've got the business to run and set up now, and it sounds like it's going great. So, so what about the longer term, Sarah? What have you got planned over the longer term?
I don't know. Just kind of carry on and hopefully not for another 31 years. But I like what I'm doing. I like where I am in life. So just kind of carry on doing the same thing. Really, I think. Hopefully.
And when you have your new house, I guess.
Yeah, that'll be another thing. And my sister lives along the road, so we can go out cycling a bit more than we do. And hopefully we'll get to enjoy life a bit more than just sort of working and speaking to each other on the phone. We can actually meet up and do stuff.
That sounds great.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, just a few final questions that are a bit of fun. Any sources of books that you've read recently or a source of inspiration, or just a good read?
Well, but books and sources of inspiration are probably two completely different things, because I tend to read detective, murdery, trash nonsense. Just all.
Yeah, what's your favourite?
At the moment, what am I reading at the moment? Oh, actually, I'm not reading detective murdery trash at the moment. I'm reading. I can't remember her name now. There's a series of books all set in Glasgow about people, the interaction of people. I can't think of a name, but it's
what's the name?
Shari Lowe.
Okay.
And she's done some of them about one day, some of them about a year, but they're all about people, and they're about different groups of people. But sometimes there's a bit of interrelationship. That was from that person. I know how they're that sort of thing. But they're good, and it's always predictable. It's starting off with a crisis, working backwards, working out how you got to the crisis, and then there's a bit more crisis, and then there's a happy ending, which is good. just fine. So I do that. But now and again I read things that are inspirational, and when you asked me, I was like, oh my God, what have I done? But there was a book called Enough by a chap called John Nash. It's really good because it just talks about how much do we need of anything. Yeah. And I started it thinking, this is all about material things, and it starts off with material things. How many suits do you need? How many shirts do you need? How many whatever? Yes. But then it goes on. It talks about emotions and information and all sorts of different things that you don't think about. And it talks about in terms of information. How much information do we need? How much of the news do we actually need to know about? And if I can't do anything about it, don't read it, sort of thing.
Yeah, you're not referring to COVID or any chance?
Well, anything really. But I mean, and the news is nearly always negative. So yes, you need to know about some things, but some things you don't need to know as much as we do, or we think we do. Fascinating book, and really, really interesting.
No,
really
great.
interesting.
No, thank you.
Worth a read.
Yes, I'll get that one. And what's your favourite quote? Do you have a favourite quote?
Well, I didn't think I had until you asked me, and then I thought about it, and something I do say to people quite often. I mean, it's not deep, it's not philosophical. It's actually Clint Eastwood in his 1973 film Magnum Force, when I've forgotten the context, but it ends up with somebody who he's obviously had some sort of dealings with, who goes off, gets in his car, and the car blows up. Yeah. And then it pans back to Clint Eastwood, and he said, a man has to know his limitations, which in the context of that is basically he needs to know that I know more than him, and he shouldn't cross me type thing. But I think we all need to know our limitations, I think, not in terms of not trying things that might be exciting and open up new doors, but in terms of things like a lot of people comment on stuff, a lot of people get angry about things, a lot of people get really riled about stuff that they maybe don't need to, because they don't actually find out about the thing. I was just reading something actually before I came out about, it was on a Facebook thing that I follow, which is all about nature, and most of it's wonderful, and you get pictures of fantastic things that people are doing, and somebody's done something that somebody's very upset about, and it's, look at this is terrible, they did all this, nobody cares, and then there was a series of, oh, that's awful, oh, that's absolutely terrible, that's absolutely terrible, and it probably is terrible, but rather than telling everybody else and getting upset about it, maybe go try do something about it. Find out about it first.
Yes, like the facts. Maybe
try and find out what has been done. Why the person's done it. Is there any? It might be ignorance. Might be deliberate. You don't know until you ask, sort of thing.
Perception is reality, isn't it?
Yeah, and then giving advice or opinions about things that you actually don't know anything about. I mean, when I was working in the planning office, we frequently got people who ring up and they'd sort of say, do I need planning permission for this? Yes, you do. Well, I don't think I do, because I was down the pub the other night and I was talking to Bert, who does something completely different for a living, and he said I didn't. Well, why did you ring up then if you don't want the opinion? But who do you think is going to give you the best advice? Yeah. And Facebook and social media is just full of information that just isn't true. And people then take it as gospel. Dave tells me all sorts of things, and I'm like, is that really true? Oh, I got it on Facebook. yeah, but is it true? I remember he told me that somebody had died once because somebody had told him that it's some quite famous person, and I said, are you sure? Because I said, I haven't seen anything in the media. Oh yeah, Keith told me. So how does Keith? Oh, I don't know, but he told me, it must be true. And this person hadn't died at all. And that's kind of the limitations of not necessarily what you can do, but your capacity for forming opinions and telling people things. You need to know what you're talking about before you start doing that, I think, and that's what dismays me about social media and life, is that people get outraged when they don't need to be, and that's being outraged isn't a nice state of being. No. And well, maybe don't be outraged, find some stuff out and then do something about it, perhaps. Absolutely. So yeah, good old Clint, you should listen to him.
Yes, and obviously don't take the action that he did in the movie.
Don't blow someone up the car. No, that's very extreme. I wouldn't
Let's just say that to all listeners. Yeah. Okay. So where can people go to learn all about you and what you're up to? You've got a website.
I've got a website, sarahcorlett.com. It's very simple. It's who I am.
Brilliant.
My business is Sarah Corlett Town Planning Consultancy Limited. Not exactly a short and sweet thing, but it says what it is. It was really important to me that people know who I am, because I've obviously dealt with lots of people during my work in government, and some people might not want to deal with me. Yeah. And I just had a horrible feeling of, I've had some wonderful blue sky planning, and somebody phones up and they don't know who I am, and then I tell them who I am, and they say, oh, well, you dealt with my planning application and you were terrible and I didn't like you and I don't want to deal with you, and then it's all very embarrassing. So I thought, rather than having that situation, I'm going to put up front who I am.
They can't say they don't know who you are.
Well, no. If they still phone me up and tell me they don't like me, that's their choice. But no, it is important to me that people know who I am, for good and for bad. So they've got the choice before they contact me, really.
For reality.
Yeah. And the website says what I can do. Always happy to speak to people.
Yep. And any social media links? Well, we'll put those in your...
I've got LinkedIn at the moment. Haven't done Facebook just yet.
No, and after what you just said, you probably shouldn't.
Maybe I don't need to at the moment, and I'll maybe think about it. But yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, well, that's great. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you for having me.
No, it's been such fun. It's been lovely to catch up, and thank you for taking part in this project, which after all is to build the awareness of the Isle of Man community, and what excellent people we have out there doing fantastic things like yourself. So good luck.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Island Influencers from Thornton Chartered Financial Planners. To find out more and for useful links, visit thorntonfs.com/podcasts.